Imagine that you're asked to find out the height of a building just by using a metric tape and a protractor. How can you do it? Now, in this video, we will answer to this question by using trigonometric ratios. Let's go. To understand trigonometric ratios, you just need to use right triangles, like the right triangle that you can see here in the board. And your main idea or the main idea of trigonometric ratios is for you to understand that this triangle is similar to any other triangles that have this angle congruent. So I'm going to draw it like in another way. Excuse the way that I'm gonna write them. This is just to show you how to do it. And imagine that this triangle, I wanted to, this triangle that it's here, it's going to be similar with another right triangle that it's here. So if I wanted this triangle will be a congruent, will be similar with this triangle, what I'm going to verify is that this angle is congruent. This is the idea. So if the angle here is theta, so the angle here is going to be theta as well. That is how we can understand trigonometric ratios. Why we can understand trigonometric ratios in this way? As this angle is congruent, it means that this ratio, so the ratio, it means that the ratio O over A, that it means the opposite side to the angle over the adjacent side of the angle, or the ratio O over H. I'm going to use I'm gonna try not to use this way. Okay, no. So, or the ratio O over H, being O the opposite side of the angle and H the hypotenuse of the right triangle, or A over H. These three ratios are going to be the same for any triangle that has this angle, because the triangles are similar. So it doesn't matter how big or small is the triangle. If they are similar triangles with a congruent angle theta, these three ratios are going to be the same. And this is the first part that we need to understand to work on trigonometric ratios. Let's erase the triangle here. Done. Now, using this information, we can define these three ratios that applies to any right triangle with the angle theta. So how is the definition of these three? So first, we're gonna start with the ratio O over H, that we're going to define it as the sine of the angle theta. The other trigonometric ratio that we can define is the adjacent side over the hypotenuse, adjacent to the angle over the hypotenuse, that we're gonna call it cosine of our angle theta. And finally, the third trigonometric ratio, that is this one, the opposite side over the adjacent side, it's going to be the tangent of the angle theta. So these are the main trigonometric ratios. Actually, I miswrote cosine. I'm going to write it properly, because the appropriate way to write cosine is just cos. Cos of the angle theta is going to be adjacent over hypotenuse. And these three trigonometric ratios are the main trigonometric ratios. There are more, but these are the three main trigonometric ratios that we can use to calculate distances, to calculate angles, if you just have information of the right triangle that you can see in this case. And there is something that is good to know in these definitions, and it's a way in which you can remember these definitions. The way to remember these definitions is to take the first part of each of the letters of your definitions, sine, cosine, and tangent. So I'm going to take here, sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is going to be adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is going to be opposite over adjacent. So using this information, you can remember how to calculate sine, cosine, and tangent. It's calling SOHCAHTOA. SOHCAHTOA. So using SOHCAHTOA, you can remember that sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite over adjacent. So this is how you can calculate trigonometric ratios, and this is something that is going to help you to find out different values. Why it's gonna help you to find out different values? Because if you notice, if I have the angle and I have one side, now I can find out the other side. If I have the opposite side and I have my angle, I can use cosine or tangent to determine the adjacent or the hypotenuse. If I have the hypotenuse and I want to find the adjacent side, so I can use cosine to determine the adjacent side. So this is how you can use these trigonometric ratios to find out the solution of any situation regarding right triangles. And to sum up, what we have learned here is just how to get trigonometric ratios, how you can use trigonometric ratios using the term of SOHCAHTOA. So let's imagine, just as an exercise proposed for you, just imagine that we have, we're going to erase here to use SOHCAHTOA. So just imagine that you have values of your triangles and you want to find out any value. Let's say, for example, that you have the adjacent angle, you have it, the adjacent side, and you have the angle, and you want to find out the opposite side. So if you have the triangle, you can use sine of the angle to determine the opposite side using the adjacent. So for example, I just need to multiply by a, so a sine of my angle is gonna give me the opposite side, or the opposite side is a sine of the angle. And you may ask, okay, that will be interesting, but how can I do it? How can I measure, or how can I solve the question that we put at the beginning of this video? That is how you can calculate the height of a building using a protractor and only at the metric tape. So it's easy. I'm gonna put it here. See here. So imagine that you have your building. You're here. You measure this distance. This is going to be the adjacent. And here with your protractor, you can create here a line to measure this angle. So if you have the angle and you have the adjacent side measuring with metric tape, you can use sine of the angle to determine the opposite side, that it will be, in this case, the height of our building. And this is how you can calculate the height of your building. Maybe you will ask, hey, but how can I calculate the sine of the angle? Calculators do it. So if you go to a calculator, there's a function that says sine. You just press sine and the angle that you measure. And this is how you can get your angle. Test it in your calculator. Imagine that you measure an angle theta of 70 degrees and that the adjacent side is 10 meters. And tell me in the comments. Just write me in the comments what will be the measurement or what will be the value of the height of a building if you measure a distance of 10 meters and an angle of 70 degrees. And this is how we can end this video. I hope that you understand how to calculate trigonometric ratios, how to use the SOHCAHTOA method. Let's write it, okay? Here, so you can see the SOHCAHTOA, so you can remember how to calculate sine, cosine, and tangent of a triangle, of an angle, and using right triangles. I hope to see you in the next video, and I hope that you enjoy it. See you next time. Bye bye.